we have snacks for today's video, presented by Baby Groot. I'm obsessed. I cannot believe that I'm finally making a 2022 tier ranking video. The last year has been really difficult for me personally, but in terms of reading, it's the best year I've ever had in my entire life. I finished somewhere around 48 books, if you count like some DNFs and novellas. My goal was to finish 42 books, and I achieved that. I really wanted to push up to 50, but you'll see from this I didn't quite make it just because some books kind of fell flat for me at the end of the year, but nonetheless, I can't wait to get into this. I've really loved discovering what it is that I now like as an adult. You'll find from today's video, like if you've been following me, I read fantasy romance primarily, and like I think there's one contemporary romance in here, and everything else is fantasy, new adult, YA fantasy, and adult fantasy, dark fantasy, steamy fantasy, like all of it, you know? This year has also been really special because 5 years ago I had a head trauma, and I was told by one of the doctors I worked with that it would be about 5 years until I felt normal. I use that term loosely, like normal again in terms of brain function and day-to-day activities, and reading was a huge problem for me following that concussion. And it's been 5 years, and this past year was really great, and now I can finally say that I've reached that benchmark, and I'm clearly doing so much better. The fact that I was able to finish so many books and chat about them with you guys here on YouTube. So please let me know what your favorite books are for the past year, what your least favorite books are, what your reading goals are going into 2023. My personal Goodreads goal is 80 books, which is mental. Like I'm doubling what I set out to do in the last year, but like I'm ambitious, I'm hopeful, I have so many books on my shelf that I want to get to, and you guys keep recommending me amazing books to check out. So I have a haul coming up from the last 3 months of books that I've picked up because of you, and we are going to have that video very soon. But let's get into it, okay? Right, these books are kind of in a loose order going backwards. Okay, really big disclaimer here. I have not had a chance to review several books that I finished in the last 3 months of the past year. So actually my top 3 books for 2022, I've not talked about on my channel, which is insane. So you'll actually find out what my favorite books are in this video, and I will do some kind of dedicated review for them at some point in the next couple of months, but you'll find out some books that I haven't shared with you. So the first one is the last book that I finished, which is A Dowry of Blood by, what was her name? S.T. Gibson. So I really enjoyed this book. This was the last book that I read in the year, and then it hit the last 100 pages and the epilogue, and I absolutely hated it. I did not care for it at all. I thought the ending was terrible. It was redundant. I got the point in the first 200 pages. I should have ended sooner. I didn't hate it. Well, I did say I just hated it. I hated the ending, but I'm okay without it. Like, it wasn't the worst book I've ever read. The writing was very pretty, and I did start a vlog with that book, so at some point I will share that with you, but just, I'm okay if it left my shelf. Okay, Empire Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I've been reading the Throne of Glass series for the last 2 years, and this book was fantastic. I struggled though with some of the character development, and you know, Sarah J. Maas can be a little bit wordy, so I did love it though. The ending, she always gets me, so that's gonna go right up. It's not a favorite of all time, but I'm not really like basing my rankings off of the stars I gave it. It's more about the feeling and impression it's left on me after time has passed. So even though I did give that book 5 stars, it's not a favorite of all time, but a great book, and I can't wait to finish that series. Okay, Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. Oh, Jesus. This is, I think, my least favorite book that I read in the entire year. I couldn't leave my shelf. Goodbye. I hated it. It took me 11 months to read, and I just finished it just so that I could say that I read another book on Goodreads, but I don't think I can read anything else by Katie Roberts again. If you like to read smut for smut's sake, read that, but don't read this because it's a Hades and Persephone retelling, because that aspect was terrible. Okay, What Lies Beyond the Veil. This was such a surprise. I loved this book. Is I'm going to say I loved it and I still think about it. I really enjoyed it. I'm in the second book now and I'm like 150 pages in and the pacing's a bit slow, and the main character's a little bit too forgiving of her love's mistakes, and I don't know, I'm struggling to get into the second book. But the first book was great, and I really loved how the author talked about falling in love with someone and then like backtracking and thinking maybe this is more to it. I don't know, I just really like the way she developed the relationship. Okay, then we have Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. And I thought this was so cute, but it's a little bit forgettable. Like, I can't really tell you the details about it, but I can recommend it if you like fairy tales, if you like princessy books, definitely read this one. Okay, so Broken Bond. This book has been everywhere on Instagram, and it's a why choose reverse harem fantasy romance, and the fantasy aspect is really light. It's basically that they kind of have powers, and our main character is very powerful, and she has 5 men that are fated to be her mates. And like, it wasn't good, but the first book was good in that she doesn't end up with any of them by the end of the book. It's just about like how they all hate her, and that was interesting. And I listened to this on audiobook while cleaning the house for like a day, and I finished it in a day. It was fun, so I'm gonna say I don't know, I'm okay without it. Yeah, I'm okay without it. Then I read Savage Bonds, which is the sequel, and I've just decided that why choose romance is not for me. I don't like the idea of sharing your love. But to each their own, you know? Then we have The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garver. Oh, this is one of the books I have not reviewed yet, and this one is one of my favorite books of all time. I adore this duology. I adore Jax. I love Evangeline, like part of the reason I have pink hair. This is my 3rd favorite book from the year. I adored it, and it would go higher, except I read Kingdom of the Feared right before it, and that one, oh my gosh, this needs to go up. Scroll up. No, not forgettable at all. Loved it. Should not be YA. 100% should not be YA. It is definitely an adult book. So good. I loved it. I still think about that, and I can't wait to read her companion book coming out this year. So good. Okay, then I read Priest, which is a dark contemporary romance. The first one I've ever read. It's not dark contemporary. It's taboo romance. Because there's nothing like dark or sinister in it at all. It's just taboo because a priest falls in love with a woman. And this was so fun, and I loved it. I still think about it. It's great. The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. I DNF'd this. I would be okay if it left my shelf for sure. It's just not for me. The writing style was info dumpy. The fantasy world didn't make sense. I see why people like it because they love a grumpy sunshine love trope, but not for me. Okay, then we have Geekerella by Ashley Potson. This was super cute. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't reread it, but in terms of like a fairy tale retelling, I think it was really well done. And it was a YA contemporary, so I think that might be the only YA contemporary I read this year. Queen of Shadows. I loved this more than Empire of Storms. Is it a favorite of all time? See, this is where I struggle because Sarah J. Maas is my favorite author of all time. But if ACOTAR is a 5-star series for me, then Throne of Glass is 4-star. But they're all 5-star books, and I binge them, and I will read them like for a week straight. So I'm not sure how to tier rank this. I mean, I did love it. Is it a favorite of all time? No, it's not. I loved it though. Oh, I feel bad not putting Sarah J. Maas at the top. Okay, Air of Fire, also very good. Loved it. Still think about it. Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This was cute but forgettable. It was still a 5-star read. Again, like I'm ranking these on how I feel after reading them. Time has passed. It's a really good book. It definitely has more of a middle grade tone of voice to it. Like it's a younger YA book, but I really loved it. And I think she did a fantastic job writing a spooky, like just mystery. There's no romance, but it's really cool because the main character is mute, so all of the dialogue comes from her own thoughts or from other characters, and I've never read anything like that, and I thought it was really expertly done. Then we have Belladonna. Belladonna was so good. Loved it, still think about it. This was a death personified romance. It's a gothic YA mystery that ends on a cliffhanger, so the sequel Foxglove is coming out. I will definitely pick that up in the new year. Violet Made of Thorns. I also loved it, but I can't tell you like details about it. But I know I loved it a little bit more than Belladonna. And I definitely loved it more than Twin Crowns. So it's kind of one of those ones that I might need to reread when the sequel comes out, but it's about a witch. And it definitely has a fairy tale whimsical vibe to it and a romance with a prince. Crown of Midnight. God, the Sarah J Maas books blend together because I read them all within the span of like 3 months. Crown of Midnight, though, was better than Throne of Glass. Is she cute? She's a little bit forgettable. I can't tell you what specifically happened in this book. I don't know. Okay, anyway. To Carve a Fey Heart. By Tosana Odette. I'm okay without it. I really loved one of her other books, Heart of the Raven Prince, but this one was just too forgettable. It was, yeah, I can't really say anything that happened. I mean, it's about Fae and about a human that goes over the wall and marries a Fae prince, but it was all kind of a bit silly and young in tone of voice for me. This Vicious Grace, I did not enjoy this book, and I think that's an unpopular opinion. This is an Italian fantasy setting about a girl with magical powers who has to marry someone to be like kind of her conduit to overcome this evil storm that's approaching, and the whole thing was just dumb, and it was very much like a I've never been touched before trope, and that's just like not me anymore, you know? Okay, then we have the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa, and I loved these. I read all 4 books in I think 6 or 7 days. The first one was Pestilence, and I'm gonna struggle ranking these because they were all very good. War was my favorite. I'm gonna say all-time new favorite. Really loved War. He's kind of like Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones, but like make him more likable. Pestilence was the first book, really good. Famine was surprising. Famine is above Pestilence but below War, so it's gonna go down here. And then Death I liked less than the other 3. Is he cute but forgettable? No, I still loved it. Like, I need to be fair. Okay, so those are going to go there. I highly recommend those. It is a new adult steamy romance that is paranormal, set in a post-apocalyptic world. Very cool. Stealing Cinderella. This was a dark taboo retelling of Cinderella. It was horrible. I don't even want to talk about it. 1 star, negative stars, goodbye. These 2 are smutty retelling novellas because I love reading fairy tale retellings, and I want to do some video recommendations in this new year talking about my favorites and least favorites and what I recommend because I've read so many. These were horrible. These could have been good if they were full novels, but like, goodbye. Okay, A Strange Hymn. I need to first talk about Rhapsodic. I have not reviewed this on my channel. I have talked about it several times, and Rhapsodic is my favorite book from 2022. This deserves the #1 spot. I read this on an airplane to Florida in 6 hours. I could not get enough of it. I literally did not sleep. I sat in that chair, squished, and read this book, and it is so good. It was actually recommended to me by one of you on Instagram, and then I immediately bought A Strange Hymn, which I loved and I still think about, but did not reach the level of Rhapsodic. And this is about a girl who makes a bargain with the bargainer, who's this paranormal man who will do anything for you, but you owe him a bargain. And she racks up like an entire arm of beads, and each bead represents a bargain that she's made with him. It's a paranormal new adult romance. I really enjoyed it. I guess I kind of ventured out into fantasy paranormal this year. Not mad about it. It's the first time I've done that since my Twilight days, and I was 14. Once Upon a Dream. This was really cute. I really liked this. I started reading the Twisted Tales retellings this year. It's a little bit forgettable because I can't tell you in detail what happens, but I would reread this. Very cute. On These Black Sands. I loved this. I got into indie authors this year, exploring more indie authors from what I was finding on Instagram and TikTok. And oh my god, indie authors are where it's at. There are some fantastic books that the masses are missing out on. And this is a pirate upper YA series that people need to talk about more because it's really good. I need to read the sequel. It came out at the end of the year, like sometime in the fall. Okay, I'm gonna skip Gleam. I'm gonna go to Guild because I read Guild first. This is the first book in the Plated Prisoner series. Horribly written, not good writing, but I loved it and I ate it up. And so I'm gonna say I still think about it. A guilty pleasure read. Then there's Glint. Definitely. Gleam is a new favorite. So I'm gonna put Gleam up here. This is where the story got really good and I could not put it down even more than the first two. Because again, this is another series I read right after the Four Horsemen and I binged them. So that was a fantastic couple of months reading. Then we have, oh my gosh, where's Glint, Guild, Glint, Gleam, Glow? Oh, I don't have Glow listed. Okay, I need to make a little space for Glow. Imagine Glow right here. Glow is the fourth book and that has my heart and soul. I loved that book. Took me a while to read, but I enjoyed taking my time with it. Okay, so this is Love. It's another twisted tale. This was cute, but I'm okay not reading it again. It was definitely young in tone of voice, but it was a cute read, and if you're looking for something fun and fluffy, then I would recommend that. Heart of the Raven Prince was really good. I loved it. This was the other book by Totana Odette set in the same world as To Carve a Fey Heart, and this is a Cinderella retelling. You can see a theme here with me this year. I enjoyed this one much more. The House of Salt and Sorrow. This was great. Do I love it? Or is she cute? I loved it. This year was a good reading year. I gave a lot of books 5 stars, and this was one of them. This is a gothic murder mystery with ghosts and ball gowns and has a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling that's a little bit grotesque. Super cool. I will read. She has a sequel or like a companion book coming out in that world, coming out this year. I reread the A Court of Thorns and Roses series this year towards the beginning. It was at a time in my life where I wasn't really sure what was going on with my career, where I was living, and it was just tough. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to reread my favorite books because it's been years since I read them. And they definitely lived up to my expectations of how I read them the first time. And A Court of Silver Flames is my favorite book of all time. So she still holds that ranking. I just love Nessa's story and her journey, and Cassian is just, he is goals. So yeah, favorite book of all time still stays up there. She has my heart and soul. A Court of Frost and Starlight, when I originally read it, if you watch my ACOTAR reread review, I originally gave it 1 star. I was like, this is filler, this is just unnecessary. And then rereading it, I thought it was the perfect segue into A Court of Silver Flames. I thought it was really well done. I loved it. Court of Rings and Ruin, I liked better than the first time I read it. I did not particularly care for some of the twists and turns, and especially Sarah J. Maas doesn't like killing her characters. And even though it's my favorite series, I want people to die. I want to feel heartache. I loved it. I still think about it. I can't give it anything less than that. Daughter of the Moon Goddess, I did not really enjoy. It was okay in the beginning. I liked the romance, and then the pacing was all off for me. I'm okay without it, but she doesn't need to leave my shelf straight away. The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman, I listened to an audiobook. This is a Snow White / Sleeping Beauty mix of a fairy tale retelling. I really liked it. Did I love it? I did love it. I listened to it in under an hour, and I think I gave it 5 stars. A Court of Mist and Fury, obviously, this is a favorite of all time still. Move up. Okay, there she is. Right there. No other explanation needed. Okay, From Blood and Ash. Loved it. Still think about it. I do think about this a lot, though. I really liked book 1. Really liked book 1. Book 2 was hard to get through in the beginning, and I don't remember what happened at the end. And that's kind of the reason why I'm stuck on book 3. I'm gonna have to look up a review. I'm gonna put in she's cute but forgettable. Ugh, is this a favorite of all time? No, but I loved her. Okay, Court of Thorns and Roses. I mean, obviously, I loved it. Is she a favorite of all time? I feel bad not putting those in favorites of all time, because, like, they are a favorite of all time. But comparing this book to this book just doesn't quite line up. Yeah, she's good where she is. Okay, The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. It can leave my shelf in my mind. Goodbye. Sorry, I know this is a really popular book, but it's just not for me. Contemporary romance is really not my genre. The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. Yeah, you know what this book is. The TikTok hype sensation. I actually started reading this when I came down with the panorama, and I don't know how I managed to read this while having COVID. If I have a picture of what I look like when I had COVID this year, I'll pop it up, like, just absolutely miserable. And this book made it worse. Yeah, it can leave my shelf, but I own the sequel, because if you've seen my recent vlog, you'll know that I came in the possession of the sequel and, like, I had no way of getting rid of it. So now I kind of want to finish Atlas 6 and read the sequel and do a reading vlog and see if anything changes about the way I feel about this book. Serpent and Dove was a DNF. I didn't like it, and I should have liked it, but the main character is so annoying. Music of the Night by, what is her name? Angelina something, I'm not sure. I really looked forward to reading this book, but unfortunately, this was the worst paced book I've ever read in my entire life. Not an exaggeration. It could have been something really good. It's a Phantom of the Opera retelling, and there was no dialogue. It was just like one scene to the next, and we were supposed to suddenly have all these feelings about these characters, and I was like, where is this coming from? Goodbye. Blood Bonds. This is a DNF following what is it called? What is that series called? Broken Bonds. Oh, I think it's called The Bonds That Tie. I DNF'd this because it was just so repetitive of the first two books, and it could leave my shelf. Okay, so looking at this overall, I think there's about 50 books here, including the DNFs. I had a great reading year, like I said, not only in terms of the volume which I was reading, but also the quality over the quantity, which was a goal of mine that I set out for myself in the beginning of the year. So I really achieved that, and I'm proud of that, even though I didn't read a ton of books compared to most people in booktube. I read books that I loved, and if you look up here, like, I wouldn't change any of this. Even down here into the You're Cute But Forgettable, I would read those again, I think. Like, I didn't dislike them. I really enjoyed them. Down here, I mean, I definitely had a handful of DNFs and books I didn't care for, but if I didn't like it, I didn't continue on with the series. So overall, I am very happy, and it is now January 15th when I'm filming this video. I have finished 3 books already, and they have been fantastic reads. One of them has been a 5-star, and the other 2 have been like 4.5 stars. So we are off to a great start. That's all for today's video, guys. Please let me know what your favorite books are, what your least favorite books are, if we have any of the same books. And if I said I didn't like your favorite book, please don't take it personally. My opinion literally means nothing. This is just how I felt while reading these books. And I hope that this microphone works. My husband got me a microphone for Christmas for YouTube, which was super sweet of him. But this is my first time using it, so if it sounds funny, I'm like still figuring it out, you know? Anyway, I am going to go finish my current read and spend this Sunday just chilling. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!